Good evening, hello and welcome. You're with the News Today, your primetime destination where you get the news, the newsmakers, the talking points, news without the noise. Israel versus Iran. Are we bracing for a real end? As Donald Trump is calling it, what will that end be? A full-scale war imminent in West Asia or a dramatic ceasefire? Also, more nightmares for all those traveling on Dreamliners. Several flights have been grounded. Panic or simply playing safe? We'll tell you more on the News Today. But the story that's breaking this evening, Israel has now issued a big warning to Iran's Supreme Leader Khamenei. Israel has claimed Saddam-like fate awaits the Iranian Supreme Leader. Several explosions have been reported in west and central Tehran. Israel says Iran's surface-to-surface missile launchers are being targeted. Iran is claiming civilian areas have been targeted. So clearly at the moment, the war is escalating by the day. Those are the images that we are getting of Iran's missile launchers now being targeted amidst a threat that Israel is issuing that they could take out Khamenei, Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader. Remember, the chief of staff, the acting chief of staff of the Iranian army has also been reportedly taken out, or so claim the Israeli armed forces. So clearly Israel now stepping up its offensive on Tehran. Those are the images that are coming in from the Iranian capital. For the fifth day in a row, Iran and Israel continuing to be at war with each other. Israel making no bones of its stated intent to effect now a regime change in Iran, with the United States reiterating its demand that Iran must give up its nuclear program completely. Time may be running out for Tehran. Will there be a ceasefire, or is an all-out war now inevitable? That's going to be our big question. Take a look at our top story.
Israel and Iran are on the brink of a big escalation. Two loud explosions were heard in Tehran on Tuesday morning. Israel has warned that it will attack more significant targets in Tehran today. Latest images released by Israel showed strikes on F-14 fighter jets in a Tehran airport, apart from strikes on trucks containing weapons and launchers on the way to Tehran. Israel has also asserted that its decision not to target Iran's nuclear facility in Fordo so far does not mean it won't in the future. Israel has dealt another deadly blow to Iran after laying majority of Iranian military top brass to waste just days ago. The Israeli Defense Forces eliminated Ali Shadmani, Iran's newly appointed wartime chief of staff. Shadmani was the most senior military commander and the closest figure to Iranian Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei. His predecessor Hossein Salami was killed just days ago by Israel in a similar strike.
Tonight, following accurate intelligence received by the intelligence branch, we eliminated Ali Shadmani, the war chief of staff, the most senior military commander of the Iranian regime. Shadmani only managed to hold the position for 4 days, and we also eliminated him. We will pursue our enemies again and again using advanced intelligence capabilities, exploiting opportunities, air superiority, and complex operational planning.
Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz, meanwhile, has issued an open warning to Iran's Supreme Leader Khamenei, claiming he could end up like Saddam Hussein.
I warned the Iranian dictator from continuing to commit war crimes and fire missiles at Israeli citizens. He should remember what happened to the dictator in the country neighboring Iran who took this path against the state of Israel. We will continue today as well to operate against regime targets and military targets in Tehran, as we did against the Propaganda and Incitement Broadcasting Authority.
Israeli fighter jets also launched a wave of targeted airstrikes deep into Iranian territory, including a shocking strike on Iran's state broadcaster headquarters in Tehran during a live transmission. The anchor on air was seen scrambling for cover as fire engulfed the studio. Flames consumed the building and the aftermath was nothing short of catastrophic. A senior reporter for Iran's IRIB news agency stood outside the burning headquarters with hands stained with blood.
This appalling attack constitutes a blatant war crime and a direct assault on press freedom. The Israeli regime has once again demonstrated that it is the foremost enemy of truth. It holds the disgraceful record of being the world's leading perpetrator of violence against journalists and media professionals.
Iran too is hitting back with a wave of ballistic missile strikes on Israel. An Iranian Defense Ministry spokesman has claimed that Israel will be defeated in the coming days.
The Zionist enemy does not have the possibility of resisting and enduring a long war, and therefore this regime will be defeated in this imposed war.
امکان مقاومت و تاب‌آوری یک جنگ طولانی رو نداره.
Are Israel and Iran now at a point of no return? Bureau Report, India Today.
And US President Donald Trump left the G7 meeting abruptly from Calgary to return to Washington, D.C., where he is now talking tough against Iran. Listen in to what Donald Trump had to say.
They'd like to talk, but they should have done that before. I had 60 days, and they had 60 days, and on the 61st day, I said, we don't have a deal. They have to make a deal, and it's painful for both parties, but I'd say Iran is not winning this war, and they should talk, and they should talk immediately before it's too late. I've spoken to everybody.
What will you say?
Israel is doing very well, as you probably noticed, and I gave Iran 60 days, and they said no, and the 61st, you saw what happened. Day 61, so I'm in constant touch, and as I've been saying, I think a deal will be signed, or something will happen, but a deal will be signed. And I think Iran is foolish not to sign one. Iran basically is at the negotiating table. They want to make a deal. And as soon as I leave here, we're going to be doing something. But I have to leave here. I have, this commitment. I have a lot of commitments. I have a commitment to a lot of countries. I want to see no nuclear weapon in Iran. And we're well on our way to making sure that happens.
So as Donald Trump also gets into the act, the big question is, what is the real end now of this Iran-Israel conflict? Will the United States now back Israel's bid to eliminate Khamenei if they decide to target the supreme leader of Iran and effect a regime change? What is Trump's game plan behind his sudden G7 exit? Is a full-scale war imminent in West Asia, as many analysts are fearing? I'm joined by special guests now. Glenn Carl is former CIA officer, joins me from Boston. Elit Baral is former director, Israel National Security Council, joins me from Tel Aviv. Zamir Abbas Jafri is professor at the Al Mustafa International University in Qom in Iran. I appreciate all my guests joining me at this moment. I want to come to you, Zamir Abbas, for a moment, because I know you're in an area where we don't know whether the network will last for a long time. It appears at the moment Iran is running out of time and options. Would I be right in saying that Iran is now under pressure to come to the dialogue table sooner rather than later?
Thank you, Rajdeep, for having me on the show. First of all, it's completely Western propaganda, Western copy-paste media narrative, which is being pushed. What had happened last night in Haifa was unbelievable. The claim that Israel had that it is invincible, it was broken. All the international media channels were forced to stop reporting live what had happened in Haifa. So Iran has completely hit at very important positions inside Israel, whether it's the headquarters of the military, of the IDF, whether it's the Mossad Center, which it hit yesterday, whether it's the Weizmann Institute, which creates the robotic things for the war. So Iran has completely attacked Israel, and Israel is in no position. 90% of its population is in bunkers. So
You're saying that
presentation
even as I'm playing the visuals of Tehran, even as we are told that Tehran is also suffering bomb after bomb, even as there are reports that more commanders have been eliminated by the Israelis, and Israel could even target Khamenei, the supreme leader. And you're telling me that Iran is winning this war.
Rajdeep, when a war starts, okay, when an aggressive country starts a war, which is according to all international laws were illegal, when they attack at 3:40 at a.m. and they kill all the commanders of a country, they kill the nuclear scientists. Let me be very clear: these nuclear scientists were sleeping with their families and their children and their wife, and they killed all of them with the entire family. Just one building that was attacked, called the name of that building was Chamran Tower. There were 60 people killed. Out of them, 15 were children. Okay, according to all international law, Article 15 of the United Nations, it is completely illegal for Israel to carry out such a war. I was also very surprised, Rajdeep, for you as such a professional journalist and India Today being a very professional brand, glorifying killing of journalists in Iran.
I'm not glorifying
You're
anything,
playing
but
the
we are at,
video.
the fact is we are at war. I just want, your two countries
No,
are
no.
at war. We're in war,
No,
as
you
you
were
know.
glorifying killing of journalists inside
I'm only
IRIB.
reporting the
The
facts.
way it was
I'm not
projected
glorifying it.
that
I'm reporting the facts.
no, that was not a fact. The fact was that the journalists were killed. The question, as a journalist, it should be asked was, why were the journalists attacked? Why was a media center attacked? And the girl who was sitting there, she was a brave woman. When the bombs were flying all over, she said that this is the voice of truth, and you cannot kill the voice of truth. She went offline. Till the last moment, she was standing. And when
Right.
she came back after 5 minutes, she said, this is an attack on freedom of expression, freedom of speech. And those people who want us, the Iranians, the
Whether,
brave people, Iranians, to
okay.
stop. This
Okay,
is not
whether
going to
freedom of
happen.
speech and expression exists in Iran, I'll come back to you. Will give you enough time, but I want to also hear the other side.
No problem.
Khalid Baral, former director, Israel National Security Council, joins us. You're in Tel Aviv. You've heard a guest from Iran saying, look, this war perhaps will have no winners because both sides are hitting each other with their missiles. Do you go with that theory that it is wrong? And he suggests, as many do, that Israel is the aggressor this time, not Iran. Israel is the one which has pushed Iran into a situation where they have to retaliate. Can you hear me, Khalid Baral? Khalid, can you hear me? Okay, we'll try and can you hear me, ma'am? Okay, let me try and reconnect with her. In the meantime, I'm going to Glenn Carl. Glenn, amidst all of this is the U.S. role. We've seen what Donald Trump has said today. He wants a real end to the war. What does this real end really mean? Glenn, can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Yeah, the U.S. is becoming an increasingly key player at the moment what the US will do next. Donald Trump saying he doesn't just want a ceasefire, he wants a real end. What does this real end mean? Is the US now itching to get into Iran, maybe target some of their underground nuclear facilities with bunker bombs? Do you believe that's a real possibility?
Well, it's an important question, but the problem is that Washington, meaning Donald Trump, doesn't really know what he wants to do. And the advisors that he has, to whom he doesn't really listen, are seriously divided in what they think should be done. So initially, Trump was pushing for this new version of the JPCOA, the nuclear agreement between the US, the West, and Iran to limit their nuclear programs. But now Israel has changed the equation and made possibly more conceivable, and the more would be the complete elimination of Iran's nuclear program. But Trump doesn't know, and he likes to bluster, but he doesn't want to involve the U.S. in a war. And many of his advisors realize that a war in Iran would make Afghanistan and Iraq, or America's experiences in both of those countries, small potatoes compared to what the Iranian long-term prospects would be. So he doesn't really know, and he plays it by the day, and he doesn't really care so long as he thinks that day to day it makes him look good.
Given what we've just heard from you Helit Barel, former director, Israel National Security Council, maybe you can hear us now. Is Israel, is this war now Israel's war, or is Israel now looking to the United States to join in the war and target nuclear installations? And is it about nuclear installations now or regime change? There's talk of Israel trying to target the supreme leader of Iran.
So first question, I don't think this was Israel's war alone, really, because of the...
Ma'am, we are having a huge problem with your audio, which we need to try and get fixed. Let me try and fix your audio. Remember, these are parts at the moment of the world where there are huge network issues. So we're going to try and get that fixed once again. But Glenn, Carl, meanwhile, you tell us. You said that Donald Trump is changing his mind day by day. Every morning he wakes up and decides what he's going to do next. But what's your sense? Is the United States itching to get into a conflict? Is Donald Trump itching to get into a conflict? Or will the advisors around him who don't want Donald Trump to spark off another war be able to prevail over him?
I'm not sure that Trump wants to get involved in a conflict militarily either. But as I said, and as I think our colleague in Israel was probably starting to say, the equation is changing. And whereas Netanyahu has long spoken, and the Americans, about the Iranian nuclear program, and that's an important issue, certainly an existential one for Israel, to have long-term success, strategic success, really implies the change of the Iranian regime. If one doesn't do that, the one has then probably succeeded in blowing up a lot of buildings and killed a lot of people. But if you don't change the nature of the regime, which partially defines itself by its hostility to Israel, Israel, and its desire to have the capability, at least, of nuclear weapons, because states view nuclear weapons as inoculation from a regime change or great power invasion, then if you don't change that, the equation remains fundamentally the same, and Israel will have bought itself medium-term security, but not change the fundamental equation. So now I think regime change may have been, and perhaps should have been, from the beginning, the strategic objective of Israel, if it's that coherent, and possibly the United States. Otherwise, we're going to create chaos at the benefit of medium-term security for Israel.
Glenn, just to push you for a moment before I go to Helit, the fact is whenever United States has pushed for regime change across the world, it's only caused more chaos. We've seen across the world, from Afghanistan to Libya to Sudan to different parts of the world, United States pushes for regime change, it leads to even more chaos.
Well, that's a fundamental point. It's very important that it's easy to break things, and it's very, very difficult to build things. You can't change the nature of a society. Sometimes you can change the nature of a regime, but you can never control the permutations of the future. And even the American Revolution slipped out of the control of its own American leaders 250 years ago, and ours was a much more conservative change than most others. So you raise a fundamentally important point that a regime change would be fraught with all sorts of unpredictable possibilities.
You know, Khalid Barrel, we'll try a third time. Is that what Israel now is gunning for? Forget nuclear installations, it's now about regime change. And that throws up all kinds of dangerous possibilities, including a clear violation of Iran's sovereignty.
Well, first of all, I disagree with that completely. To say forget nuclear installations is completely outside the scope of what Israeli interests are. Israel has been saying for years that it will not accept a nuclear threat from Iran. It will not accept a nuclear military capability from Iran. That's what this operation is about. That's what it has been about. In addition, of course, to taking care of the ballistic missile capabilities of Iran, which have been used against us over the last few days quite massively and must be dealt with and released. I hear this talk about regime change. I think it is a very strong notion here that it's not our job, it's not our responsibility. I think many people, certainly here in Israel, but many people in the region, and certainly a lot of people in Iran, if not the majority of the people of Iran, would be very happy to see this terrible regime gone. But that is the responsibility of that nation. And it's also within the capability of that nation. We saw what happened around the terrible, terrible protests with Masa Amina'i and the kind of prices that the Iranian public was paying to protest and to stand up to the regime. And I have a lot of faith in those abilities. But that is not an Israeli issue. That's not the Israeli
you're
goal.
saying, Khalid, you're saying that, but it is your Israeli defense minister who's saying that Khamenei could meet a Saddam Hussein-like end. So it's Israel which is now seemingly, after saying this was about nuclear installations or ensuring that Iran doesn't have the capacity to build a nuclear bomb, making it possibly also about regime change.
Again, I don't believe that is the case at all. I agree with you that that was a very, very sour statement from the Minister of Defense. It's not his first one. I can't say much to defend that. I look at actions more than words, and I see that those people who were taken out are people that have to do directly with Iran's military capabilities, missile industries, nuclear facilities. We've taken out a lot of people who are responsible for that, not touch the political echelon. So that's where I stand on this. And what I think is the goal. Don't forget, we're on the 5th day of the operation. As far as Israel is concerned, there's still a wide bank of targets that have to do with missiles and nuclear capabilities that we still haven't approached, despite the fact that we've had great success over the first days of this operation. And going back to the United States, because I missed that part, I just want to say it's basically a choice between two things. I don't know what Donald Trump will decide. I don't think anybody can say what he will decide. That's part of what turns him into the president that he is. He makes his own decisions, but he has put two very clear options on the table more than once. One is Iran comes to the table with a real compromise, with a real willingness to give up those components that are threatening the region, Israel, and the world, or it will have to adhere and absorb more than just the Israeli strike.
So what you're saying, this is a prolonged conflict, which could take days, if not weeks, from what you're saying. This is am I correct, broadly?
It could, or it could be settled through political, diplomatic venues, but those require very strong compromises from Iran. This is the stance not only of Israel, of the United States. If you look at what happened in the IAEA at the Board of Governors meeting and the decision to start referring Iran to the Security Council, the snapback sanctions that very soon will start rolling into the process. We'll have to start rolling soon. The stance of those E3 countries. We see that there's a very wide consensus that Iran has overstepped on this issue and that this cannot continue to be the case. It saddens me that Israel once again has to shoulder this burden operationally, but I am heartened by the fact that it is diplomatically and internationally accepted that the reality of a
you seem you seem to suggest it's almost as if Israel is on a moral crusade. Surely killing of civilians, targeting TV stations, moving from one war to another, one day Gaza, one day Iran, one day Lebanon. Is that a moral crusade out here? Is this some moral crusade where Israel believes it can have the nuclear weapons, but can have a nuclear monopoly in the Middle East, but no one else can have it?
Let me put it this way. This is not you're talking about morality and crusades and so on. For us, this is not something to do with any kind of religious issue. I don't like this word crusade. It has nothing to do with national security interests. Israel is defending its national security interests when we learned many times in history, and once again on October 7th, when someone promises us that they are coming to annihilate us, we believe their intentions, and we're not going to allow that someone who orchestrated October 7th, which is Iran, to also hold nuclear weapons and the capabilities to deliver them against our country. You can think that it's a crusade or whatnot. I don't think any other country in that position would stand by and allow it. But what I am saying is not only this is a very clear Israeli national interest, which is why you're seeing the support that you're seeing. This is a regional interest, and this is the interest of the world. Mind you, Iranian missiles can also reach the continent of Europe.
Okay, in a way, Zamir Abbas Jafri, that was the stated Israeli position that we heard very well articulated by my Israeli guest. Your response, is the mood in Iran on the street in any way? I had an Iranian activist who said people in Iran believe enough is enough, that they would also, there is a large section that would also perhaps like a regime change, or do you believe they will now consolidate behind the supreme leader and the clerics?
Rajdeep, I'm really surprised the way the questions are presented. It's completely the Western narrative. Let me put some facts in front of you. It'll help you to make better decisions. First of all, when the Friday attack started in the morning, the same day there was Friday prayers, and after Friday prayers, millions of people all across Iran, I was one of them, in Qom, they came out after Friday prayers in support of the government, and they came out against Israel and against the aggression that Israel has put Iran on and forced a war on Iran. So the mood in Iran is very clearly of unity and united with the government, and there are enough videos. I mean, if you want, I'll share my personal videos which I've taken from my phone, where the millions of people are there in the streets of Qom saying they support the government. So this Western narrative of regime change, what is regime? Why are you calling us a state which is official government, which has democracy, which is in the United Nations? Why are you using this word regime? Is United States a regime? Is India a regime? No, why are you using as a regime? Why are we copy-pasting?
Since 1979, the fact is that you have had a particular form of government. You don't want to use the word regime, that's fine, a particular form of government. It's a government which has been seen to foster proxies, whether it's the Hezbollah, the Houthis in different parts of the Middle East, with the sole aim of targeting Israel. You've also you bombed Israel last year. Missile strikes took place last year from Iran on Israel. The fact is, Iran cannot claim that they come into this debate with hands clean. Neither can Israel, in my view, but neither can Iran.
I think this is very easy. You know, when a war starts, you say both of them have problems. It's a very easy way to get out of it, right? So when Iran attacked Israel, who attacked first was the first question. Iran retaliated both the time. Iran, look, it's a 2,500-year-old civilization. Iran is not a country which was built like 50, 60 years ago. And it is not an occupying country. It's a country which has never attacked anybody like India. Like India in 1979, Iran brought about a revolution. And the people of Iran and India have a lot of similarities. Like Mahatma Gandhi clearly said at that point of time, Palestine belongs to the Palestinians the same way England belongs to the English and France belongs to the French. So the revolution in Iran was a clear message to the Palestine. And let me tell you the real issue. You're asking what Donald Trump will do, as if they're the masters of the world and the rest of the world are the colonialists. They're there to, to submit and be subservient to to Americans, and they're the masters of the world. Let's get out of this Babu mentality, that
Okay,
they're
I've heard
superior.
you. Zaid, I'm running out of time. I want quick. I've heard you. You believe that Iran has the right to self-defense, and therefore to suggest that regime change in itself is an assault on national sovereignty. I'll just get into two quick words first from you, Khalid, very quickly. It's rare to have voices from Tehran, from Iran and Israel joining us together, but Khalid, the fact is Benjamin Netanyahu is also someone who's accused of having blood on his hands, whether it's civilians in Gaza or now civilians in Iran. In the name of self-defense, is Israel responding to one disproportionate response after the other? How would you respond to those who are saying Israel cannot claim that they come into this conflict with clean hands?
I think anybody who followed the events in the Middle East over the last 2 years know that the opening shot of this was the despicable massacre of civilians, children, and women in an act planned by Iran, executed by Hamas. When I hear that Israel attacks first in Iran, I want to make sure that we understand that we are talking about the annihilation of Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran, a leader of Hamas, in a precise way that took him out. And so as a response to him being one of the planners and the executors of the October 7th massacre, I, as an Israeli, am not willing to apologize for any of that. What we saw then were two failed counterattacks by Iran in April and October of missiles, which, if you consider what happened, had basically failed. We saw the collapse of Hezbollah. We saw the collapse of Syria. And what we saw is the proxy network, thankfully, disappearing after decades of targeting Israel through terrorist attacks, through missile attacks, so on and so forth. So again, we can go back and forth like this for a long time. My bottom line remains: Israel will not accept Iran holding a nuclear weapon. You stand there daily preaching for the annihilation of the state of Israel. It shall not stand.
Okay, I want to get Glenn Carl, therefore, to get a final word. When you hear these voices from these two countries, is United States abandoning the role of playing any kind of global peacemaker now? Donald Trump simply wants to, in a way, stay out and yet hope to take the credit if there is a ceasefire tomorrow.
Well, he's contradictory. I mean, he is more isolationist than any president in 80 years. And at the same time, he clearly wants the United States involved and to shape results internationally. To a large extent, he has aligned U.S. policies or acquiesced with the right wing, the ascendant dominant wing of the Israeli government. But I do have to say that any country that defines itself in part by an intention to destroy an entire other nation, and I'm speaking of Iran, has a lot to account for. And it's hard to blame Israel when it is existentially threatened from taking a step and then characterizing it as an attack that is unfair. That's simply not true. And then the last thing, claiming that the Iranian population massively supports the regime is just delusional. Since what they support is not being killed by the IRGC, which holds all the guns. I mean, that's just, it's insulting.
Okay. I've heard three different viewpoints. As I said, it's rare to get voices from Iran and Israel amidst the conflict. I know that all of you are particularly in the Middle East in a very tough situation, so I appreciate you joining us and giving us your perspective. Clearly, very, very different perspectives that reflect the nature of this battle, polarized battle taking place there. I appreciate all of you joining me here on the news today. Thank you so much. Now, meanwhile, as tensions escalate between Israel and Iran, Indian students in Tehran have been moved to the city of Qom, approximately 148 kilometers away for their safety. The Indian embassy in Tehran has begun relocating the students due to the ongoing missile strikes and the deteriorating security situation. India has evacuated in the last 24 hours around 110 students. Many of them are from Jammu and Kashmir. Joining me now is Rahil Abbas. He's an Indian who's been stuck in Iran. Also joining me are Mohammad Shoaib and Anaf Ishaq, students stuck in Iran. We've been trying to get through to all of you. Go ahead. Who wants to speak first? Mohammad Shoaib, Anaf Ishaq, would you like to tell us where you are at the moment? Are you safe, completely safe, and are you out of Iran at the moment?
I am Mohammad Shoaib, and I'll be speaking first. Right now, we're in the city of Qom in Iran. It's around about 150 kilometers away from Tehran, and we were evacuated yesterday around about 1:30 p.m. We left Tehran because the situation there was quite drastic and dangerous for everyone, including students. Who are the domestic students and the national students, not just for some one person. The situation is dangerous. It's dangerous for all of us. We even saw heaps of traffic jams in the highway when we were leaving for Qum, and we had to change routes 2 or 3 times because during our travel, the Qum Tehran highway was also attacked once by the Israeli army.
So you've gone to Qom. Is the plan to now get out of Iran? Many of students are coming now through Armenia. Is that the plan, to get out of Iran at the moment, or to stay there in Qom?
We hope so, but right now we're in doubt what's the further procedure for this, since the embassy isn't clearly talking to us and giving us instruction. They have just told us to remain calm and don't panic, and the
Right.
accommodations there have been provided by the embassy also.
Yeah, but as I said, the fact is also, of course, 110 students have been evacuated. What has been the most difficult thing, Anna, for you all to deal with in the last few days? How difficult have the last few days been?
Hi, first of all, thanks for having me. Over the last few days, life has drastically changed. Our academic schedule, it has stopped. It is completely on. It is on hold right now. Our classes have been postponed. Our exams have been postponed. Our whole academic schedule is on hold. So we don't know what happens to our degree next. Like, we have seen the Ukraine war. We have seen how students had to migrate from country to country. They were left in lurch. It's the same feeling. The uncertainty going on around.
Okay, there is an uncertainty. Rail Abbas, you're an Indian also stuck in Iran. How difficult is it for all of you? Are you in touch with the embassy authorities? Have they given you full assurances on what next? Okay, we're trying. Rail, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can hear you.
What assurances have the ministry given you? What have they asked you to do?
So we are hundred of people from India, which belongs from UP Allahabad and Prayagraj, which is known as now, and we are stuck in Qom city, which is situated in Iran. And currently, we don't have any information from the embassy, but I have called several times, and they said like you have to wait there, and just wait there and follow the instructions of Indian government embassy. So we are waiting for the instructions. Once we'll get any instruction, we'll follow that.
Okay, so you're still waiting for instructions. All of you are obviously in a very, very difficult situation. Our thoughts are with you, our prayers are with you. And remember, the people of India are firmly with you, and we hope that you will be safe. So I wish each and every one of you the very best. If you have any details, any concerns, remember, we'll be in touch with you constantly. So please take care, and I hope your families who are watching you will be assured that their children are safe. So thank you, Rahil, Mohammad, Shoaib, and Anaf Ashaq for joining me on the show at the moment. Remember, they are joining us from different parts of Iran. Not very easy. Credit to our assignment team that has managed to link them all up in the last few minutes. Since the crash of Air India Dreamliner 171 in Ahmedabad, multiple Air India flights have reported mid-air technical issues in the last 24 to 48 hours. Several frequent flyers still grappling with shock and anxiety following the Ahmedabad crash are now raising serious concerns, particularly over Air India. The public confidence in what was once India's national carrier has taken a hit amidst reports of delays, of congestion, and of course, of air safety. In a moment, I'll be joined by Rajiv Pratap Rudy, Member of Parliament and himself a professional pilot. But first, take a look at just why there is fear and anxiety in the skies.
Between the 12th and the 17th of June, Air India has faced an unprecedented string of incidents. It all started on Thursday, 12th of June, with the devastating crash of flight AI-171. The Ahmedabad to London flight crashed shortly after takeoff. A total of 241 passengers and crew members lost their lives, with only one survivor. The tragedy shook the nation and sent shockwaves through the global aviation industry. Several more lost their lives on the ground when the 11-year-old ill-fated Boeing 787 aircraft plowed through a medical college hostel as it crash-landed in a populated area. But the troubles did not end there. Just 3 days later, flight AI-819 from Delhi to Vadodara made an emergency return after a landing gear malfunction. On 16th, flight AI-315 from Hong Kong to Delhi was forced to turn back due to technical issues. The same day, Mumbai to Ahmedabad flight AI-2493 was cancelled due to operational problems. And on June 17th, 3 more incidents. San Francisco to Mumbai flight AI-180 was grounded in Kolkata after a technical fault, leaving passengers stranded for hours. Then Ahmedabad to London flight AI-159 was cancelled due to unresolved technical issues. In the afternoon, the London to Amritsar flight AI-170, also involving a Boeing 787, cancelled due to technical reasons. A total of 7 Air India flights were cancelled on today for technical and operational reasons. These repeated disruptions have left thousands of passengers frustrated and anxious. Social media is flooded with complaints, and many are now questioning Air India's commitment to safety.
Yeah, there was a technical snag, and then we were all waiting in the flight. We got down, and we were being made to wait in the airport for a long time without much information. So we had everybody were like in one groups and trying to figure out what was going on.
With investigations underway and regulatory scrutiny intensifying, Air India faces a critical test. Can it restore passenger confidence, or will this week mark a turning point for India's national carrier? For now, Air India says it is cooperating with authorities and reviewing all safety protocols. But for many travelers, the question remains, will they feel safe flying Air India again? Bureau Report, Business Today Television.
And in news now, breaking civil aviation body DGCA has held a meeting with the Air India CEO Campbell Wilson. DGCA has cracked the whip on Air India and Air India Express amidst all that turbulence in the skies that we just reported. Sources telling us that the DGCA has told Air India to focus above all else on safety and passenger comfort and communication. Air India has been told to tighten its flight operations and to strengthen its crisis communication. That's a meeting that DGCA has had with the Air India CEO Campbell Wilson. To get more on that, Amit Bhardwaj, who's still in Ahmedabad, joins me. He tracks the ministry. Amit, what exactly prompted this kind of tough talk from DGCA? Is it the recent incidents over the last 48 hours where a number of passengers have complained about what's going on in Air India?
Rajdeep, especially in context of AI-171 crash and Air India's Boeing Dreamliner fleet, there have been a lot of concerns around the Air India's operation. In the past few days, we have seen many of its flights getting either delayed or cancelled, and especially in light of the enhanced safety inspections that was ordered by the DGCA for specifically Boeing Dreamliner. This particular meeting was called in. So 7 specific points have been discussed in this particular meeting, where Air India and Air India Express top officials were there, and DGCA Faiz Ahmed himself for chairing this particular meeting. What we are given to understand that safety norms in regards to Air India's Boeing Dreamliner was primary focus. The Air India has been also told to ensure there is no delay in their flight, and if delays are happening, the passengers needs to be informed accordingly as per the protocols and laws of the aviation industry. Moreover, it is very important out here that Air India has been asked to make sure that they have alternative arrangements in place if there are any maintenance related issue. Back to you.
Okay, Amit Bhardwaj telling us what happened at that meeting. Appreciate you joining us. Let me then go across to another of our newsmakers tonight. I'm joined by a member of parliament who himself is a professional pilot and flies airlines. Rajdeep Pratap Rudy, BJP MP, joins me. Appreciate your joining us, Mr. Rudy. 7 Air India flights cancelled today, many of them Dreamliners in the aftermath of last week's tragic crash. There seems to be either panic in the skies or a desire to be safe at all costs. Would you agree there is panic in the skies at the moment, given these several flights being grounded in this manner?
Well, I really do not know the configuration of the 6 Air India flights. And if we thought there is a threat posed to the 787 Dreamliners, whether all these 6 or 10 flights which you are mentioning, were they all 787 Dreamliners, or whether it was also the 777s which the Air India operates?
Most of them were Dreamliners.
And secondly, as far as I am also aware of certain flights which were rerouted, or for that matter cancelled because of the Israel-Iran attack. So unless until I know exactly for the reasons, and for an airline like Air India, which of course has a large fleet, to trigger a panic button and say that there are aircrafts don't go in air if there is something wrong which they cannot operate. Nor the operator will like that to go in air, and if they agree to fly an aircraft which is found, because nothing in an aircraft is there which is not recorded, monitored, even remotely when you are flying or when you are operating. So having said that, a captain operating a flight which could be not fit to fly is something which I cannot say, but unless until I go through the records,
Sir, you're saying you're not, you want clarity on exactly why these flights were grounded. What we do know, Mr. Rudy, is that the DGCA today had a long meeting with the Air India management. They want a greater focus on safety and passenger comfort and efficiency. Is this not a reflection of panic somewhere over the way Air India's operations are being conducted? There's a fear of the way Air India's operations are being conducted.
So I can tell you, DGCA is not an advisory body. It will not advise that, look, you are not obeying the safety technical parameters, so that you have to start rethinking. If the flight is not fit for flying, it will not fly. And if the flight is fit for flying, it will fly. So it's not a suggestive implication, and not that till the DGCA told them certain flights were unfit to fly and they were flying. It can never happen in airlines business. There are certain laid out problems with which an aircraft can fly, which is listed, which is the procedures for there are there. So there are glitches with which you can operate a flight, and there are which you cannot, and there are so you cannot be an open-ended discussion that advisory was given by.
Sir, it's not just about an advisory. You're a former Minister of Civil Aviation also. The DGCA today told Air India to focus, we are told, on aircraft safety and maintenance, to tighten flight operations, ensure timely departures. I come back to it. What is your response? Do you believe that Air India needs to respond to all these real concerns?
So, thank you. I've taken note of all these points. There is no advisory as far as the technical aspect of operations is concerned, because DGCA will not permit anything which is not technically fit to fly. These are suggestive measures which is talking about passenger comfort, about time, about response. This has nothing to do with the technical operations of Air India. These are issues allied to what we are talking about, aircraft's capability and fitness to fly. So let's not mix up two things. DGCA may be advising it, and if there are delays and if there are hiccups and there's passenger discomfort, all these are advisories which they can monitor, but nothing to do with the safety.
Let's turn though to safety. You're a trained pilot, you fly planes. Data shows that India is second to none when it comes to aircraft safety, but there are growing concerns over the way in which rapid expansion is taking place, over the management of certain airlines. How confident are you that our skies are safe at the moment?
100%. Absolutely. Nothing will go beyond the norms of operation, aircraft safety parameters, and training. Nothing can be compromised at any level. So an accident may have happened. It has happened. It is a tragic accident. But because the regulations just do not flow from the DGCA. We have other organizations which also control the overall airspace across the world. And there are the FAA also looks into it, the basics of the world flying. There are parameters to it. A flight will not be in air if it is not meeting the standards of operations. And it is just not the aircraft which has to match the operation standard. It is the pilots and the crew and the ground maintenance and the airport facilities all have to fall on the same page for the aircraft to be in air.
Are you saying, therefore, that flying is safer in India than anywhere across the world, Mr. Rudy? Is that an assurance you're giving as a former Minister of Civil Aviation?
Well, yes, I will have to say that we are safe. The DGCA and other, whether it is Airport Authority of India or the Air Traffic Control, or for that matter, the airports or the standards of the airports or the operators themselves, they would endeavor to give you the safest flight. And in my opinion, whether it is Indigo or Air India or any other services which is in the country, matches world standards for aviation. And Indian aviation, which is, of course, expanding, and the Indian people have a lot of faith, may have been traumatized by this accident, but I can assure you that Indian aviation is the safest and the best in the world. And we have challenges which the government is addressing, and that we should have faith in the agencies running the government, the operators, and the people involved in the aviation industry overall. So we should have faith in them.
Okay, you're saying we should have faith in the aviation industry. At the moment, clearly that faith, Mr. Rudy, has been shaken, but I appreciate you joining us. Okay, we're going to take a break in a moment because we'll return then by getting you more news on what's happening in the Gulf. We are now told that U.S. fighter planes are moving to West Asia. I'll be joined by the editor of Foreign Policy, one of the world's leading foreign affairs magazines. But before that, my image tonight. With tears welling in his eyes and folded hands, Captain Sumit Sabharwal's father paid a final tribute to his son, the pilot of the Air India plane which crashed in Ahmedabad on June 12th. Mr. Sabharwal had promised his father that he would quit his job and take care of him full-time till tragedy struck. Our thoughts today are with the Sabharwal family and their trauma and tragedy. That's my image tonight. Do say a prayer for that family. We'll be back in a moment with plenty more. The big headline in a moment, Donald Trump has called Iran to surrender. That's right. We're going to give you the big story in a moment. Iran has been called by Donald Trump to surrender at the moment. That's the big breaking news that we are getting you at the moment. Let's play that big breaking news that we are getting you at the moment. Iran has been called on to surrender is the story that's breaking at the moment. Donald Trump, the US president, is saying that he knows where Iranian Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei is hiding. He says he's an easy target, but we are not going to kill him for now. This is now taking United States' role almost directly into the conflict, even as American warships and planes are heading reportedly towards West Asia. Trump tweets, we now have complete and total control of the skies over Iran. Iran had good sky trackers and other defensive equipment and plenty of it, but it doesn't compare to American-made, conceived and manufactured stuff. No one does it better than good old USA. Exclusive news coming in, US military now moving fighter jets to the Middle East, extending deployments of warplanes to bolster defenses amidst the Israel-Iran conflict is what US officials have told Reuters. I want to get first Quick reactions from Gaurav Sawant, who's joining me from Banff in Canada, and Sandeep Unithan, who joins me here in the studio. First to you, Gaurav, you're where the G7 meeting is taking place. Donald Trump left that meeting abruptly earlier today, saying he wants a real end to the war. Is the real end a demand for surrender now of the Iranian regime, and is the US willing to get directly involved?
Rajdeep, this would appear to be a massive escalation. The statement that's made by US President Donald Trump that he wants the Iranian leadership to surrender. So far, it was only to get them to come to the talks table, negotiate and agree to what the West wanted or what the United States and Israel wanted. But now getting them to surrender, and surrender actually means abandon their nuclear program in its entirety. Point one, point two, not even enrich uranium to 60% in Iran. And Iran is sticking to its guns that it should have the capability to at least enrich uranium for non-military grade, where it's 90% and above, it's military grade, 60% is for civilian nuclear use, and they're open to all sorts of international scrutiny. But America says nothing doing. In fact, Israel very systematically pounded the entire air defense system, the airfields, Isfahan very extensively, and Natanz, which were known nuclear sites. It's the Fordo site where American assistance is required, which is where the B-2 bombers and the GBU-57 bunker busters, and those are bombs that can go 60 meters deep or at least 40 meters deep and then cause massive detonation. Those are the kinds of hardware that Israel is looking at. Will America actually provide that, considering the B-2 bombers are on their way to the Diego Garcia base? You have 3 aircraft carrier battle groups moving into the Indo-Pacific. More fighter jets are moving into Central Command or US Central Command. So it all appears, if it's posturing, it's massive posturing. If it's beyond posturing, then it's trouble for Iran in the next 24 to 48 hours, Rajdeep.
Sandeep Unithan, what do you... Gaurav is saying it could be posturing to get Iran to the negotiating table and completely abandon its nuclear program, or it could be the Americans deciding to join hands with the Israelis in striking at Iran. What's the sense, given the kind of movements we are seeing of fighter jets and ships moving towards the Gulf, even as we're getting news about sirens being sounded across Israel because of more ballistic missile attacks by Iran? Is Iran getting more desperate?
Well, absolutely, Rajdeep. And, there is a third alternative course of action to what you just suggested. That is possibly that Donald Trump is moving all these forces into the Arabian Sea, into Saudi Arabia, those massive movements of fighter aircraft and tankers, possibly to prevent any attacks on US servicemen. He's mentioned that in one of his 3 tweets. His first tweet is, of course, unconditional surrender. We are still trying to decipher what he means by unconditional surrender, the surrender of the regime or the end to its nuclear weapons program. But he's also mentioned in one of his tweets that there will be serious action, there will be serious repercussions if US servicemen are targeted. And there's something like 50,000 US servicemen in bases across West Asia.
Has
so
Ravi
it's
joined
likely
us
to
or not?
protect the US servicemen from possible reprisal attacks from Iran. Rajdeep.
Okay, Sandeep Unithan and Gaurav Sawant, appreciate both of you joining us. I want to now go to a very special guest who joins me. Ravi Agarwal is editor-in-chief of Foreign Policy. It's one of the world's leading journals on foreign affairs. Joins me at the moment from New York. Ravi, thank you very much for joining me. You join us at a time when we've had this dramatic announcement by Donald Trump through Truth Social, where he says there must be a complete surrender by Iran. What do you see as complete surrender as defined by Donald Trump in that tweet or post that he put up on Truth Social?
Rajdeep, it's really great to join you. I would not take Trump's tweet too seriously. He tends to vacillate wildly on things that he says on social media. And look, he's been saying quite a few things on Iran over the course of the last few weeks. He's ranged from calling himself a peacemaker who does not want to get involved in foreign wars, which, by the way, his base is really strong on as well. The MAGA world does not like the idea of America being mired in foreign conflicts. So it could be And a lot of this is pop psychology, as it often is with Trump. It could be that Trump has had a conversation most recently with the Israelis, which then leads him to say, well, we must be tougher on Iran. As one of your correspondents said, this could be posturing. The reality is this: Iran is a great historic power and civilization. They've been humiliated a fair bit in the last 4 or 5 days. There is almost no world in which Khamenei is going to surrender. There is no world in which he is not going to want to further convince his people and the region that he is still strong despite all the hits he's taken. So Trump knows all of this and knows that his statement either way is a provocation. I would see it as such, rather than see it as any direct move to try and take out Khamenei.
You're saying that you don't see it as a direct move to take out Khamenei, but you've heard also the Israeli defense minister saying today that Khamenei could meet a Saddam Hussein-like fate. Is Israel simply ratcheting up the pressure with US support, direct or implicit, to try and encircle Iran in a manner that eventually Iran decides to come to the negotiating table and say, okay, we're abandoning our nuclear program? Do you see that as a real possibility, that dialogue will take over? J.D. Vance could well be meeting the Iranian foreign minister soon, according to some reports.
Look, all of this is in the realm of things that Israel might want to try. But if you look at strategy, were you to somehow try to take out Khamenei, which I'm sure Israel alone has the capability to do, who replaces him? There's a fantasy, I think, on the left that there is a democratic opposition that will step in and then take over and everything will be rosy after that. If you try to topple Khamenei, the supreme leader, you could easily have a replacement from the military. You could have a hardliner. You could have another dictatorship. The army will likely be more powerful. So there is no real clear strategy or alternative to be having these kinds of discussions, which, by the way, are in complete violation of international law. Where have we reached, Rajdeep, that it is okay to talk about taking out the leader of another country? This is not the leader of Hamas or Hezbollah. This is the leader of a country. So I do think it is very sort of improper for these two countries, Israel and the United States, to be having this conversation the way they are. But the second strategic thing here, Rajdeep, is nuclear weapons. Ostensibly, this whole thing began on Friday because Israel wanted to take out Iran's nuclear weapons. By all accounts, all they've done so far is set Iran back by 3 or 4 months. That's it. To take out Iran's nuclear weapons, you need those American bunker busters, which are 20,000, 30,000 pounds heavy, which can only be carried in by American B-2 bombers. There's no sign yet that any of that is actually happening. It would take weeks and months, by the way, to even make that happen. So a lot of this is posturing, and it could be a way to get Iran to the table. I personally think it's a fundamental misunderstanding of how Iran works. This is a deeply prideful nation that is not going to respond to pressure in that way.
So, there are two elements to what you said, and I want to come to each. One, of course, is Iran itself. Are you saying it's very clear Iran is not Hezbollah, Iran is not the Houthis, Iran is a strong sovereign nation, which you believe will consolidate around its religious political leadership in this moment of adversity? And therefore, the United States needs to be perhaps even more careful before it decides to commit itself to action against Iran. Am I correct?
You're correct in saying that. I'm not saying that this is necessarily what will happen. I'm just saying it is more likely, were you to try to topple the regime, that the replacement would be along similar lines than some sort of fantasy about a democratic opposition that does not exist right now. They have been utterly decimated. You can go back to the Shah's son. That too may not be the best move. We saw how that worked out decades ago. There's no great alternative here.
Let's come to the United States itself. Donald Trump, here is someone who was elected, Ravi, at the start of the year on the belief that he would make America great again. And part of that was that they didn't want to get in wars across the world. In fact, Trump came to power saying, I want to end wars. What's happened? Russia, Ukraine has got even more fierce. Israel continues to bomb Gaza, and now we have a fresh conflict between Israel and Iran. Is this Trump foreign policy unraveling because of its sheer ad hocism? It promised something 6 months ago. 6 months later, we don't even know what Donald Trump will do next. So what role is America really keen to play? Global policeman or isolationist?
Yeah, so I don't think American foreign policy is unraveling. I think there's, at the substantive level, there's certain shifts that are taking place in American foreign policy, and we can discuss those. At the superficial level, Trump has, made these grand declarations about how he wants to be a peacemaker, how he wants the Nobel Peace Prize, how he can end the Russia-Ukraine conflict in one day. I think as he's realizing, it is much easier to talk than it is to do. And it is clear that he's becoming frustrated with the situation in Europe. He is frustrated with what's happening in Gaza and his inability to really sort of, clap his hands and make big changes happen. And he's also frustrated because with Israel and Iran, Trump is an even bigger supporter of Israel than President Joe Biden was. And when he looks at this particular conflict, he wants a quick end. What you are seeing on social media and the things Trump is saying is a manifestation of his desire for a quick end. However, that is now coming into a clash with his deeper instinct of not wanting America to get involved in foreign wars. And the reason why this is important, Donald Trump is a great politician. He understands how the American people feel. And the American people, by and large, do not want to be involved in foreign wars. It's not just the people, it's also the military themselves. If you think about it, America tends to send to its armies people from the same families, multi-generations of commitment to the American military. And after Afghanistan, after Iraq, there's a real sense of what do we have to show for this? Now, that movement, which is often led by people like Tucker Carlson, Charlie Kirk, J.D. Vance even is a big believer of the End Forever Wars movement. They are now coming into a collision of sorts with some of what Trump is saying about getting involved in the Middle East. And we're seeing that sort of debate play out live right now.
The other key figure in a way, Ravi, in all of this is Benjamin Netanyahu. Here is someone who quite on the other end of the spectrum seems to believe war is peace and wants to wage war against Iran and its proxies. The war against Iran has been on his mind even since the late 1990s. Are we seeing now Benjamin Netanyahu simply out of control because he believes this is the moment when Iran is at its weakest? Is he, in that sense, as dangerous now to any kind of regional stability as many believe the Iranian regime is?
It's a great question, Rajdeep. So there are two ways of looking at this. On the one hand, yes, he is a force of immense instability given what he has just started in Iran. And none of us know how this is going to end. None of us know whether Iran is going to escalate. Remember, Iran, if it wanted to, could stop tankers flowing through the Straits of Hormuz. It could really hurt the global economy and oil prices tomorrow if it wanted to. And I don't think it wants to go there. So in a sense, Netanyahu is daring Iran to really do some nasty stuff to the world or rush to the bomb. All of that said, Netanyahu is actually still reasonably popular at home. There is a real sense within Israel that on many of the things Netanyahu set out to do after October 7, weaken Hamas, he succeeded, even at immense human toll in Gaza, decimate Hezbollah, he's completely succeeded on that front, ward off the Houthis, succeeded there, and strike Iran at the one moment where it was weak, despite any negative sentiments from the West. So in that sense, he is still seen at home as a strong leader, albeit someone who's an opportunist, who's mostly looking out for himself. And all of that, I think, is another sort of big collision that we're seeing in the Middle East. And, it plays out in very unpredictable ways. There has long been a movement to try and, vote out Netanyahu. But every time they've tried over the last several years, they've failed. And that's part of that is because of the immense demographic changes within Israel, which has become more conservative, more religious, and more likely to back people like Netanyahu. So there too, longer term, Netanyahu is part of a trajectory.
But, just the big picture again, one of the flashes I had on screen, or the big question was, is the West powerless to stop this conflict? Or have we seen the limits of power and therefore a world, in a multipolar world, no one really is in a position to either rein in a Netanyahu, rein in a Khamenei, and is that a recipe for chaos that we are seeing playing out at the moment, whether it's in Russia, Ukraine, or now Iran versus Israel?
I wouldn't say the West is powerless, Rajdeep, but I am increasingly disappointed at the actions of the big Western powers. I'm disappointed that, right now is a moment for diplomacy. There were diplomatic talks ongoing between the United States and Iran, and yet Israel attacked. Right at that moment, it could have waited for that to play out. It could have waited for Europe and the United States to issue their snapback sanctions on Iran as another lever. Instead, it attacked. It also broke international laws, including the Geneva Convention, in attacking in the way that it did. We just had the G7 that began yesterday and is still going on, and Trump left 2 days early. That was another moment for a chance for diplomacy. What we are seeing around the world, Rajdeep, is a retrenchment from diplomatic measures, a sense that there is impunity, that if you break the laws, there are no costs imposed on you. So if you're Putin right now in Russia, you know you've committed war crimes in Ukraine. You know that there are charges out against you. You can't travel to countries that are signatories of the ICJ or the ICC. Yet it isn't stopping him. There are war crimes charges against Netanyahu. Yet it isn't stopping him. And this is what worries me the most, Rajdeep. The rules-based order that we created 80 years ago after the end of World War II, it seems like no one's following the rules. It seems like countries feel like the order is breaking, and yet they're not able to come together and really change the system or reform the system. So honestly, that is the thing that worries me the most in my job.
Does India have any role at all to play, Ravi, in all of this? India has been unwilling, unlike other countries, to seemingly take sides, even though there's a sense that we now have a stronger friendship with Israel than ever before. Do you believe India should be taking a stronger moral stand, as some have suggested?
So it's interesting that you asked that question by saying, should India? Now, the question is it in India's interests to take that stance? Should India, if it is purely a moral question that you are asking me, then yes, India should absolutely, for the world's sake, take a more active role in saying that the rules matter. We will follow the rules even when it's not in our advantage, because rules matter. If India takes that stance, it will be an immensely moralistic stance. And if it encourages other countries to do the same, and it imposes penalties on countries that don't follow the rules, that would be a wonderful thing. Now, is it in India's interest to do so? That is a whole other question, Rajdeep. And one could make the case that India has been acting in its self-interest for several years now. Gone are the years of, the non-aligned movement or policies that were more humanistic. And you could make the case that in acting in its self-interest, India is advancing its foreign policy cause in an intelligent way. So these are two different aspects here. And the Americans have realized this as well. America long sort of centered human rights in its foreign policy, not because it was in its self-interest, but because it felt it was morally the right thing to do, and it could build a world in its image. Ultimately, that was in its self-interest. Now America is more nakedly America first, more nakedly opportunistic. And so countries have a choice. Do they want to act only in their interests, or do they care about something bigger? That is a question every country should ask itself.
Ravi, I just have 30 seconds. What is the most likely end game? Given all the dramatic events of the last few days, what is the most likely end game? Are we heading, in your view, for a prolonged conflict, or do you see hope at the end of this dark tunnel of missile versus missile?
I think Iran doesn't want a prolonged conflict. It can't afford one. I think Israel as well is going to find a way to claim victory. We're in an era, Rajdeep, where conflicts are sharp and short. And part of the reason is the weapons that are being used, drones and missiles. The other is spin. Countries and leaders are better capable of spinning stories than ever before. And the truth is, their respective media are also far better than they were before at spinning stories to their domestic audiences.
That's another debate for another day, Ravi, that we should have, because that's a little close to the bone, given what happened when India and Pakistan clashed last month. But always good to talk to you, Ravi Agarwal. I hope to get you more often and give us your perspective from your vantage position there as Editor-in-Chief at Foreign Policy. Thank you so much, Ravi, for joining me and giving us that big picture on what's been another dramatic day in West Asia, Israel and Iran fighting each other. It appears with a war that at the moment doesn't seem to have a clear end game. To you, the viewers, it's time to end the show. Thanks for watching. Stay well, stay safe. Good night. Shubh Ratri. Jai Hind. Namaskar.